Hi, welcome to the third video on my podcast. This podcast the topic is on why is addictive use of social media harmful. My special guest today is my cousin Dorsa. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dorsa. I'm a computer engineering graduate.
So let's start off with psychologists believe that 5 to 10% of Americans meet the criteria for a social media addiction today, and that the general definition for a social media addiction is that it is a addiction driven by the urge to log in and use social media that may impair other important areas of life. So, social media addictions are pretty different to other addictions, and they are really specific for each person. People believe that social media addictions are not that serious, while addictive social media is just as similar to other addictions, and people may feel mood modifications, withdrawal symptoms, unpleasant physical and emotional symptoms, and relapse. Social media, the whole concept has been designed to be addictive, as social media platforms like Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram produce the same neural activity that is similarly caused by gambling and even recreational drugs. So my question for you first today, Dorsa, is that do you tend to see young adults around your age addicted to social media, or rather not aware of their addictiveness to social media?
Yes, addiction to social media is very real. People tend to find validation through posting on different mediums online. The rush of hitting different numbers of likes and comments often make adults addicted to social media, mostly their phone. Social gatherings have made people connect through their phones rather than taking the time to interact with each other in person. We have been swallowed up by our phones to the extent that at a gathering, we might record the event rather than live that moment with our friends and our loved ones. If people go to concerts, they spend 90% of their time they're watching the artist through their phone. They forget to be present and enjoy the show that they're at.
Yeah, and as you said that people getting a rush by hitting different numbers of likes and comments, professional studies show that the rush of the constant stream of retweets, likes, and shares from these sites, they trigger the brain's reward system the same way a chemical reaction from cocaine and other drugs would. Um, Neuroscientists have even compared social media interaction to be a syringe of dopamine being injected straight into your system. Even some studies from Harvard University show that self-disclosure from social media sites trigger the same part of the brain that also become triggered when someone is taking an addictive substance. Um, with the need of validation, as you said, when someone posts a photo, their brain releases large amounts of dopamine, which can start a habit. When people start using the need of validation and start depending on social media to relieve stress, loneliness, or depression, like that's when real issues start to occur. Um, since some of these people they're not receiving the amounts of dopamine needed, they start leaning more onto social media, and this can lead them to not being engaged in real life relationships, school responsibilities, and not properly caring for one's well-being. I've seen this a lot happen to a lot of my friends during quarantine. Not a lot of social interactions have been happening, and people have been posting photos maybe every single week just to get the validation and somehow get that dopamine that they would get from talking to people. The average person spends nearly 2 hours a day using social media, but I know that some of my friends, including myself, I've hit 14 hours a day on my phone, which is like crazy. How do you think like these social media apps even get people attached? Like, what gets people to download them?
Okay, so let's start with an example. Have you seen those videos that at the beep, an actor gets up, and as more people come in, they see the actor's behavior, so they eventually change their minds and follow the actors for no apparent reason, just to fit in.
Yeah.
Even when the room becomes empty, they continue to follow that behavior and continue to stand up at the sound of the beep. Let me show it to you, just so
Yeah.
you get a
Okay.
better idea of what I'm talking about. Stop. Pay attention. Take a look at this crowded waiting room. These people may appear to be waiting for the eye doctor, but they're actually waiting for the first test subject in our hidden camera experiment. And here she is, right on time for her 12 o'clock appointment. Hi, how are you doing? This woman thinks she's here for a free eye exam. Have you been here before? It's my first time. What she
for us.
I'll be with you in just a couple minutes.
Today we're running an experiment on social conformity, and the test starts now. Did you hear that? These people sure did. It doesn't take long for our test subject to notice a pattern. Beep means stand up. But why? And if you were in her shoes, what would you do the next time the tone sounds? While you might think you make your decisions all on your own, when it comes to peer pressure, all too often, your brain is just following the crowd. It's all around you, every day. An invisible force you're probably not even aware of.
I'm going to skip ahead to show you
How you think and who you are.
what it actually looks
called
like.
Social conformity, or peer up at the sound of this tone, simply because everyone else is. You might be thinking you'd never go along with this. Or would you? After just 3 beats, and without knowing why she's doing it, this woman is now conforming perfectly to the group.
Yep. So you can see, that's what I'm talking about. So as I was saying, they called it social conformity. This is a type of social influence that results in a change of behavior or belief, just in order to be able to fit in with a group. There are two types of social conformity. One of them is normative and the other one is formational. Normative conformity occurs because of the desire to be liked and accepted. I believe people download social media applications because of their desire to be liked. The number of likes on pictures and videos that we post have become the grading factors in determining our self-worth. After all, how would a person know they're liked if their friends don't comment on their social media posts?
Yeah, and with like over 210 million people suffering from internet and social media addictions worldwide, that just the numbers getting bigger every single day. In like a marketing sense, the creators of social media, they don't really need to advertise. Like you've never seen an ad for Instagram or Snapchat. They know that since it's such a social thing, since it's so socially common, everyone else would get it too. And by using this like unethical mind manipulation, they draw people to their platform, and by this they can do multiple different things, like for example marketing attractive people, or like a family like the Kardashian Jenner family. And like even when you just create an Instagram account, they tell you, oh, like here are some celebrities you may like, and based on that they can find what's good for you, and they will find different ways to market things to you. Do you think that the addiction with social media is going to be a problem that dies down, or do you think it's not going to get better anytime soon?
I think with the emerging technologies and the technologies of virtual reality, I think being the addiction is just only going to get worse. People are going to find different ways of socially gathering via their virtual reality devices. There are concerts happening on VR devices right now. So I think it's definitely going to get worse for a very long time, until our generation and the generations after us, they see this suffer from, being addicted to their phones, and until we become basically like the learning lessons for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And this probably won't die down for another couple of decades.
Also, I believe that because of some stats, like 35% of people using phones have had less difficulty sleeping than the 42% with a higher or average usage on their phone. Also, way increased depression rates during teens. Like for example, in a 2018 study found that teens who spend 5 hours per day using their phones were almost twice as likely to exhibit depressive symptoms than the teens who are only using their phone for around an hour. I think a lot of this has come with the situation with quarantine and COVID as well, when people cannot get out and meet people, so they lead on to social media to occupy their time, and that's gotten a lot of people dependent. What do you think about that?
Do you want to repeat your question?
So I think, what do you think about how quarantine has affected the use of social media in teens? Like, do you think that's been a main factor for a lot of teens downloading TikTok, for example?
I think it definitely has made the situation a lot worse. It has pushed people closer to their phones because that's the only, you know, pipeline of interaction with other people.
Mhm.
It's your only way of talking to your friends. Um, and it's your only way of like, you know, interacting with anyone. And yeah, so it's making it worse.
Yeah, besides even like social issues like depression, social media has also raised a lot of like physical well-being concerns for people. For example, 90% of American drivers, they have admitted to using their smartphone behind the wheel, while 50% of them reported that they're specifically using their smartphones to check social media.
That's not good.
Yeah. I agree with you that I don't think that the situation is going to get worse, that this situation is going to get better anytime soon. And I think social media addiction is something that should be talked about more often. And people your age and my age should be more informed about the dangers of social media.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's hard to like notice the dangers because it's so new. It's such a new concept to the
Mm-hmm.
society as a whole. So people tend not to see what the end results look like. It might take us, our generation, as like a lesson learned, but we'll get there as a society eventually.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good. I want to thank you for spending your time to be here, and I think we can wrap it up. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thanks for having me.